Coming up on today's episode of the Money Pants Podcast, the Job Inspector. Why you need one. Why a job inspector is an absolute necessity. The qualities you should look for in a top-notch job inspector. What mistakes to avoid when inspecting, especially the secret to avoiding manipulation and fights and never-ending job time. Plus, we will have a special guest, the reigning champion of job inspectors, the one and only Trixie Petunia Pineapple. She'll share her method for running a successful job inspection routine. All this and more, but first, the joke of the day.
A shepherd is herding his flock in a remote pasture when suddenly a brand new Range Rover advances towards him. The driver, a young man in an Armani suit, Gucci shoes, Ray-Ban sunglasses, and a YSL tie, leans out the window and asks the shepherd, "If I tell you exactly how many sheep you have in your flock, will you give me one?" The shepherd looks at the man, then looks at his peacefully grazing flock and calmly answers, "Okay." The young man parks his car, whips out his iPad and connects it to his cell phone, then surfs to a NASA page on the internet where he calls up a GPS satellite navigation system, scans the area, and then opens up a database and some 30 Excel spreadsheets with complex formulas. He sends an email to his BlackBerry and after a few minutes receives a response. Finally, he prints out a 120-page report on his miniaturized printer and turns to the shepherd and says, "You have exactly 1,586 sheep." The farmer replies, "That's correct. And as agreed, you may take one of my sheep." He watches the young man select one of the animals and bundle it into his car. Then the shepherd says, "Now, if I can tell you exactly what your business is, will you give me back my animal?" "Okay, why not?" answers the young man. "Clearly you are a quality engineer and you conduct audits," says the shepherd. "Ha, that's correct," says the man. "But how did you know?" "Easy," answers the shepherd. "You turned up here, although nobody called you. You want to get paid for an answer I already knew, to a question I never asked, and you don't know anything about my business. Now give me back my dog." Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Money Pants Podcast. We're your hosts, Hannah and Fontaine Judd, and we're the proud parents of 7 sons and 6 daughters, ranging in age from college student to toddler. We're both BYU graduates and the creators of Money Pants. Head on over to CaptainMoneyPants.com to learn more about what we do and what we're all about. We're on a mission to support families who are trying to raise hardworking kids and to combat the current trend of entitlement. Today's topic is the job inspector and job inspections. And we also have our first guest ever, Trixie Petunia Pineapple. Welcome. And my guess is this episode will probably be really short because Trixie is super efficient. And that's why we have her, because we wanted to talk to...
You're not nervous, are you? Are you nervous about being on this show, Trixie?
No.
Okay. So we wanted to talk to you. First of all, before we get to you though, Hannah, I think you and I wanted to kind of talk about why we do job inspections at all. Like, what's the point?
Right.
But in order to answer that question, I think the easier thing to do is to ask, why not do job? Like, what happens if you don't do job? Because a lot of times the things that we do with Money Pants, it's not so much why we're doing it, but what would happen if we didn't do it. And that's the easier way to answer the question. So I guess so what happens if we don't do job inspections? And well, the first thing, if you don't do job inspections, the jobs don't get done. It's like, if nobody's looking over your shoulder, especially when you're teaching kids to work, it just doesn't happen. They get lazy really fast.
Well, the timer doesn't mean anything, for one.
Right, because what does it matter when the timer beeps? So what?
If nobody looked at your job, it doesn't matter. So it basically negates that whole... We did a whole podcast on how wonderful timers were. Well, timers don't do anything if you don't have an inspector at the end of that timer. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, that deadline doesn't mean anything.
Well, that was the thing I noticed too, though. Like, as an editor in Hollywood, my stuff, we had deadlines, we had a timer, but then I knew someone was going to be watching my show. Like, there wasn't if I get it done, I get it done. No, there were going to be people watching. So I knew I had to do a good job because everyone was going to see.
You'd be there in the hot seat, the producers behind you.
Everyone's going to see what I did. It's not like I'm working in a vacuum. No, that everyone's going to see my work. And so I had inherent inspectors for my job. But that's what we're advocating is for job time. You have to have a job inspector, somebody to look it over and go, okay, here's having that accountability partner, I think is the basic concept of the inspector. But then on top of that, there's another aspect, and that is you need somebody who...
There's quality control.
Yeah, there you go.
You need quality control.
That's the term, yes.
Because otherwise the work is sloppy. The quality deteriorates. And this can actually cause a lot of problems because you're running a home and things can become unsafe. It can become unsanitary.
Yeah.
In fact,
really quick.
Almost.
It gets disgusting really fast.
So usually when our family, if we ever get the stomach flu, it's because there's a problem with either the dishwasher's not working or the dishwasher
is not working.
is not working.
Either the dishwasher isn't working or the dishwasher isn't working.
Yeah. So anyway, you're like, wait a minute. Why is there like oily gunk all over this plate that's been put away like supposedly clean? And you're like, oh, and then the next day everybody starts throwing up or something like that. This is a large family, problems. Yes. So we have to stay on top of things like that.
Right.
You have to make sure that the jobs are being done well. You need your bathrooms to be clean. Mm-hmm. You need your counters to be wiped properly. You need the dishes cleaned. You need the garbage taken out and not like stuffed in a drawer somewhere. Yes, that will happen. Some kids will do that. I don't want to take out the garbage. And you'll find it in the water heater closet or...
You're not speaking from experience, are you?
And then, like a week later, you're like, why does my house smell so bad?
Of dirty diapers and
you're like, I can't figure
rags.
This out. Anyway, so it's a learning process, mm-hmm. but in order for the learning to take place, you have to have the inspections, and part of the inspections is it's a teaching. It's not just hey, you didn't do this or whatever.
Especially when you're first starting out. When you start a new series of jobs, or if you're just starting mm-hmm. Money Pants for the first time, or anytime you're teaching chores to kids for the first time, when you're first starting out, they actually don't know what to do, and they don't know what's expected of them. And that's the other thing, is when you're doing job inspections, I guess we'll talk about this in a second, but when you're doing job inspections, the kids or the individuals doing the jobs, they have to know what the expectations are. Because if those expectations aren't clear, they'll never rise to those expectations, and they won't ever know what's truly required of them, and they will end up, the job, as you said, the job will just slowly deteriorate, where it's like, you're supposed to clear and wipe the table. Well, it's mostly clear and mostly wiped to the point where...
Oh, I was supposed to use soap?
Yeah.
Or,
I'm supposed to take everything off?
Yes. No, everybody has like their own definition of what clean is. So you have to define what clean is for children, just in general.
And that's just it. It's because what kid, and let's just take an 8-year-old, what 8-year-old truly understands what clean is?
Yeah.
They only know
when you say clean the bathroom, they might think, oh, get the clothes off the floor and put the stuff in the drawer.
But we say, as a parent, when I say clean the bathroom, I mean sanitize it. Like, I don't want there to be urine around the toilet. I don't want there to be bombs inside the toilet. I don't want there to be a ring around the tub. Like, when I say clean, I mean sanitize. When a kid hears clean, they're like, oh, pick up my clothes. Like, very different definitions of of clean, but also along those lines, I've noticed that, again, going back to an 8-year-old, what's his definition of clean? It's only what's been given to him. Whatever's been modeled for him, that's what he thinks of clean. And if he's never cleaned before and hasn't ever thought about it, he's like, I don't know what clean is. So, yeah, having that job inspection, the job list, very important for new workers. We
once had dinner with a couple who had raised, 7 or 8 kids, the Allens.
I think 7.
They had 7. They had raised 7 children, and we just really adored the Allens.
Awesome.
They were awesome.
Remember the Allens, Trixie? I think he was your teacher in Sunday school. What was his name? The son. Oh, it's not Taylor.
Oh, you know what? I can't remember.
Anyway,
I can't remember.
You would remember him.
Anyway, but they were telling us how when their kids were young, they had a book. It was kind of like the Bible of chore time. And in that book, it had each of the jobs listed in their household and a very specific description of how the job was supposed to get done. Mm-hmm. And I got really excited and I said, can I have a copy of your book? That way I don't have to make one of my own. I'll just copy your book.
Yeah. Well, no,
Anyway.
because I mean, there's got to be overlap. Obviously, maybe they have different chores than we do or slightly different style, but I mean, that would give us a huge head start on teaching our kids to do their jobs. And I remember we asked them, we're like, hey, can we have a copy? Can we have a copy? Every time we saw them, we'd bug them.
Yeah,
And
but
then-
they had moved to a different
moved
place,
away,
and
yeah.
we moved to a different place, and we never got their book. And so after that, what my husband and I did is we created chore training videos for our kids, and we found that was like really effective, especially for younger kids.
Oh, yeah.
But for anybody, because having it written down was one thing, but actually being able to see, okay, this
Somebody
is what I
demonstrate
want.
it.
Is somebody
Yeah.
demonstrate it and demonstrate the steps was very helpful. And so it's not hard to do something like that. I think we're gonna post the videos that we did on our website. Are they already on there?
They are. Most of them are. Some of them are not.
Okay.
Because we haven't finished them. but
Okay.
Most of them are.
So
The bathroom, how to clean a bathroom, how to do the dishes, how to clean and wipe the table, how to sweep, how to vacuum, how to mop. Oh yeah, mopping.
yeah,
how to do
change a diaper.
No, that one's not on there.
It's not on- you didn't put that
No, I
one
didn't
on
put
there.
that. I don't know if we did how to potty train a kid, but we have like how to wash the car.
car. That's a very good one.
All those are real. The bathroom. Oh, how to do the laundry. Like how to clean the bedroom. Those are all. I think all those are on there, and they're really good. The bedroom one, we talked about that one where you put everything in a big pile,
Yeah.
and separate out the pile. And
Well,
I really like that.
Well, what we found was when we created them, like one of the first ones we made was how to change a dirty diaper. And after we recreated it, we had a 4-year-old who sat there and she watched the video, and she watched it probably 3 times. And she had a little baby sister still in diapers. And the next time the baby had a dirty diaper, she went and changed the baby's diaper all by herself. And she did it right, and she did a good job.
She
and
did it right.
yeah, not only did she do it, but she did it right because she had seen it. It was explained to her. It was visual. Anyway, we were surprised. We weren't expecting our 4-year-old to do that. We've never required 4-year-olds to do that.
No,
but
normally you would not want your 4-year-old
and normally,
to do that.
yeah, but the point is she did on her own, and
After
she
watching
did it
the video.
after watching the video, and she did it right. So that's one of the most effective tools. And then also you don't have to repeat yourself when you change jobs. If you have a video on hand where you're like, okay, this is your new job,
No,
vacuuming.
That was one
This
of
is
the
how you
major
vacuum.
problems we had. Every time we would change jobs, we'd have to go and. Okay, so we have a large family. We have. I think when we really started doing the videos, but right before that, I think we had 8 kids. Mm-hmm. And we're like, every time we'd have to change jobs, Hannah, you and I would have to go and basically babysit each child in their new job to explain them everything they needed to do over and over again, though. And it was just so time consuming
It's
and
so
so
tedious.
overwhelming and so tedious. And we're like, we don't have time for this. And then the other jobs that we weren't, chaperoning, they didn't get done because the kids didn't know what it was expected or didn't know how to do them. And we're like, there's got to be an easier way. And then we're like, oh, why don't we just make a video that shows what we
Yeah.
expect?
So
And so every time we change jobs up, we just go watch the video.
all right, let's watch the videos, guys. And that works great. This is going to be your new job. Pay attention.
Yep.
You
And
know?
then they have a vested interest because they're like, oh, that's my job. I probably should know
I
that.
should probably know that, yeah.
So it made it easier for us, for sure.
The initial teaching is easier if you can show a video. That way you don't have to keep showing them.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, oh, you need to rewatch the video.
Right. But there's another major benefit. Oh, are you going to talk about that?
No.
Oh, I was going to say there's one other major benefit, and that is when we noticed, Hannah, when we created these chore training videos, we noticed that it helped clarify our expectations. And we went to who's the green cleaning book that we use that we reference a lot?
Oh, I want to.
It's not Ellen Sandbeck. It's somebody else. Anyway.
Do you know who wrote that book, The Green Cleaning?
No, the one I had to read. And
Yes.
No.
So,
She did a good job, though.
no, and so we reference because she has a ton of great ideas, and we kind of go, oh, we should implement that, and that, and then when we made the videos, though, we were able to organize our thoughts and go, oh, this is the most efficient way to do this job, and we actually got better
Yeah.
at teaching our kids when we did the videos. I thought that
Well-
was very helpful because it made our it clarified what we were expecting and kind of a process that we were hoping to accomplish.
And along those lines, we mentioned that we read a book on greenhouse house cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
That was important to us because there are a lot of really dangerous chemicals, for cleaning the bathroom. And we wanted to be extra careful that our
because kids are the ones doing it.
Yeah, you have to be really careful what chemicals you have kids using because, if you have a product with ammonia and a product with bleach, they could end up poisoning themselves.
All right,
or,
Billy, here's your container of poison. Go clean the
bathroom. Or
bathroom.
splashing it in their eyes or spraying it at their siblings. and blindness is never good. And so
we try to avoid that.
we try. But so yeah, finding how you want your kids to go about the jobs and how you want them to go about it safely. And defining that is important. But for inspections, so that helps with the teaching part of inspections. Right. That assists with that, having those videos.
Well, no, because then the inspector and the person doing the job are also both on the same page.
Yeah.
So they both know what's expected of them.
Yeah. So, but then also what helps is to have like a list, an actual list written down. And on the app, you can put in the description of a job. Say, when I say dishes, I mean you've got to load the dishwasher, you've got to unload it, you've got to clean out the sink.
Oh, no, Hannah, that's huge. That makes such a big difference because that eliminates fights. That eliminates whining. That eliminates all sorts of problems. Oh, I thought I was done. Well, let's look at the app. What does the job description say is expected?
Yeah, it takes the emotion out of it where it's the answer is either yes or no. Did you clean the sink or did you not clean the sink?
It's very clear what counts as done.
Are the dishes all unloaded or are they not? Are there dishes left on the counter? Yes or no?
And if you have one of those children who like to fudge, maybe you can edit the description to make sure that any of their fudging techniques are accounted for. We're like, oh, you meant put them away in the cabinet. Okay, yes, I meant put them away where they belong in the cabinet. And you can make your job description as detailed as necessary to accommodate for children who have a tendency to stuff or to fudge a little bit. Yeah. We found that to be very helpful.
So having that, so when the inspector goes around, they should have that list. Like when they are inspecting a certain job, they need to look at the list of what needs to be done and go, is that done? Yes. Is that done? Yes. Is that done? Yes. Okay. Is that done?
It's
yes.
so easy. It's so easy to be job inspector if you have a list. And because you're like, okay, did you wipe the counters? Good. Did you clear the counters? Did you wipe the counters? Did you sweep the floor? Are the edges clean? Are the corners around the garbage cans clean? And it's very clear. Did you wipe the baseboards? Did you spot clean any stains or messes on the floor? Okay, you're done. It's really that easy. And that's the other thing as the job inspector. Like, it helps because I was job inspector for many years. It helped me out because I will forget. There's just so many things. There's so many important things to try to remember, and you're trying to get job time done as quickly as who wants to do job time all day? So as an inspector, you're trying to get through it as quickly as possible. And you're like, okay, having a checklist made my job a lot easier.
Yeah. Well,
and it made it more fair.
When I did inspections and I'd look in a room, I'd be like, it's cleaner. Okay, you're done, I guess. And then
it would slowly get dirtier and
dirtier. And it would slowly get dirtier and dirtier. If you don't use a checklist. Until eventually there was just a
trail to the beds and the closet, and that was it.
Yeah, if you don't use that checklist, the quality
clean
deteriorates.
Becomes relative.
Yeah, it's
and that's not what we want.
No.
We want actually clean, not relatively clean.
So.
Oh, it's cleaner than it was. Well, that would motivate the kid just to mess it up, just so they could show that they cleaned it less.
Okay. Well, that's one of the things that makes inspections hard is if you don't have it defined, you have to have it defined what you mean by clean.
Right.
And you have to have it written down, and the inspector has to have that with them. If you're not using the app, then have a notebook or something.
Even way back when we had the paper system, we had a big sheet of paper, and each job had, and we laminated it. Remember this? Mm-hmm. And each job had a detailed description of what was required under each. So we had a list of all the jobs on this two-sided piece of paper that we laminated, and then underneath each job was a checklist of what was required for that specific job. Yeah. And it was.
So if you're not using the app, go type it up, make yourself a nice sheet with the lists of stuff, and laminate it. And give it to whoever the inspector is.
And that's what we did. We had laminated it, and we had little check boxes in it, so we could use like one of those Sharpie, not a Sharpie, but a
dry erase
marker
yeah.
to check the little check marks. And that really helped. And then at the end of the day, you could just wipe it clean because it's get ready for next time.
And then what we would do is we'd cut out the section that applied to a certain job, and then we'd put it inside like the cabinet or somewhere where the kid doing the job, the bathroom, could see, oh, have I done the counters? Have I done the mirrors? Have I done...
That was helpful.
Yeah, and that's helpful as well. But that communication has to be there, and it has to be clear, and it has to be consistent.
And we've kind of gone all digital now with the app. And so like we actually have, if you go to the homepage of the app, there's the home where it lists all the people. And then the very next section is the assignments, where that's basically the list of all the jobs for the house. And then you tap on one of them and it gives the detailed instructions of what that job entails, so like
I actually like the hard sheet better because they're all like just on one sheet. You don't have to scroll and like find, oh, okay, here's this person, then you have to click on their job whatever time of the day it is, like breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You don't have to click on that and then click on descriptions. I just find it easier if it's just in one page.
The bigger your family is, the easier it is if it's on one page.
Sure.
But for most families don't have 15 people.
Most. Yeah. I'd say we're in the minority. Less than half the families in America.
I just like having
less
it
than
like
15 people.
I like just having just one piece of paper.
So you really like that? You like having the big sheet?
Yeah, I actually like that better. And then you have it on the side of the fridge. And if someone was like, I can't remember what my job is, they didn't have to go get the phone. It was just on the fridge.
Right.
So you could just grab it and look at it.
The only problem we had, and this is kind of the reason we put it in the app, was that we were always changing. And so every time we changed the description or the job, then we had to go and
redo the
sheet. And it became, that's why we changed it to the digital. But
Have we
see,
finished changing it?
No,
because like we had 2 kids leave off to college, and then we had to combine jobs, and then we like changed
it feels like it's always changing,
zone.
And we're always combining or rearranging jobs. Like it used to be, Boo Boo was in charge of the chickens in the yard, but then the cow. Now we're getting milk from the cow, so now she's not cleaning the yard anymore, but her job still includes the cows. But now she's not just feeding them; she's also milking them, and it seems like we're always kind of rearranging. So maybe if the family is more sedentary and it's not always changing, like if you have 2 kids and it's pretty much the same routine all the time, I think you're 100% right. Print it out, put it on the fridge. It's very clear. The inspector grabs it off the fridge to do inspections and puts it back on the fridge when they're done.
But
because I remember that. I liked it. I liked having that big sheet of paper.
And it's great. I think it's helpful to have it posted in the job area of certain jobs too. I think that helps out as well. That's anything that improves the communication and the clarity, so there's no confusion as to what qualifies as done.
That's really it, is to take all the emotion out of job time. There's no need for that.
And that is actually the hardest thing about inspections is the emotion.
You want to talk about that?
Well, so I am the worst job inspector in the family. And there's a couple of reasons for that, but one of them is I am very easily manipulated. And I feel sorry for people, or I feel guilty, or they're doing their best, or something like that. And it just drives me nuts. And I know I don't want to do that. It drives me nuts, but there's this battle going on inside of me of, no, I'm not going to be a pushover. Oh, but he's so little and he looks so disappointed, or she's in a hurry. Oh, and I make excuses for people. Mm-hmm. And so I am the worst quality control person in our house, probably.
So let's talk about that. What makes for a good job inspector?
Well,
you're on that topic. Let's go there. What?
A sociopath.
What?
Okay. Well, I have the 2 best job inspectors here with me. Should I be scared?
So
okay.
Yeah. What makes for a good job inspector? What are the qualities?
Someone with no emotions.
Well, no. No, that's not true. I have emotions. Trixie has emotions. What qualities are you looking for the job inspector? Because we typically we recommend that one of the parents be the job inspector.
Okay.
It's just because it's such a hard job.
All right. When you're deciding which parent should be the job inspector, number 1, they have to be there. Okay?
Oh, right.
Right. If they're not there, they can't be the job inspector.
If Dad's off at work, he can't.
And he's never home for it. He can't be the job inspector.
Or if Mom's not home from her job until noon, then she can't be the morning job
inspector.
Okay, sure.
So clue number 1, they have to be there.
Right.
Okay. 2, if you're choosing between a couple of people, generally it's better to pick somebody who's not manipulated easily. Somebody who's more matter-of-fact and straightforward and isn't easily pushed over. Okay. Okay? Someone who's like, nope, this is the rule, and they stick with it, and they're firm about it.
And we have the tools that we have with the app really help, where everything, again, going back to the checklist, that really helps, because you're like, well, either it's done or it's not.
Yeah. And you don't have to be mean about it. You just have to be firm about it.
Matter of fact. You
have to be matter of fact. Say, unfortunately, that does not qualify as done because this and this, these 2 things are not done yet.
It's not me, it's the app. This is what we all agreed. This is the requirements for this job. Yeah. And clearly you didn't do it. So. And
if you are easily manipulated, using that checklist is 10 times more important. Yeah. For someone with that issue, because that's like the only way you can deal with it is go, no, these are the requirements. I am not allowed to pass you off unless these are done. So yeah, you don't want to pick somebody who's lazy because a lazy person won't use the checklist and they'll just go, yeah, looks done. Yeah,
it's good enough.
Good enough. We had a house inspector do that once.
Yes, we did.
He came over and you pay him how much money to come inspect the quality of the construction work?
I'm not going to say, but I'm still bitter.
Yes. It was like a lot of money.
No, Hannah, I had been up in the attic. I was making sure all the box covers were positioned correctly and all the screws were right and the wires were in the right place and stapled down, and I was under the house doing the same thing.
Well, or if you hire somebody.
And this Yahoo comes over.
And you had to pay him thousands of dollars.
He just walks in the living room and goes, looks good to me, and walks out, and I'm like, what?
And he got paid for his job. Yeah.
I was so mad. I'm like, why was I under the house? Why was I up in the attic? I mean, granted,
but what if something was dangerous?
What if I had missed something?
Hadn't done it right?
Yeah, it was so frustrating.
Yeah. Anyway,
don't be a lousy inspector.
So he would not be a good inspector. He is fired. Okay. So don't pick somebody who's lazy to be the inspector. Somebody who's like, good enough, because they don't want to go through the work to actually go through the checklist and make sure things are done. So anybody who's lazy, they're out of the running. Okay, next, one of the requirements for a person to be inspector is they have to know how to do the jobs themselves.
Yeah.
Because you can't help another person do the job. So we normally you want to choose an adult, but if you are using one of your kids as the inspector, it has to be one of your kids who does high quality work on a consistent basis, who knows how to do all the jobs and knows how to do them well and has proved that.
Right.
So this isn't going to be your 4-year-old doing the inspections.
That would be a mistake.
Yes, that would be a huge mistake. Okay, they can't even read most of the time. So, okay, next, you want to choose somebody who has good eyesight.
What?
If you are blind, you cannot be the inspector.
You laugh, but that's a really good point.
Okay, that's the other reason I'm a horrible inspector. Okay. I'm supposed to wear glasses and I don't.
Because you're so vain.
And so every once in a while, well, there's a couple reasons. My vision always changes when I'm pregnant and nursing. And so my vision's like always changing. So I'm like, what's the point of buying glasses?
Yeah, you'd have to have 8 different pairs.
Yeah. So, and I always have toddlers that break glasses. So I finally just gave up and I'm like, vision's good enough. And anyway.
The problem is you don't see any of the spills.
No. Yeah, it's so embarrassing. Every once in a while, somebody will have glasses and I'm like, oh, let me try your glasses on. I put them on and I can see better. And I feel mortified. I look in the mirror and I go, my makeup, I need to blend it. Holy cow, I've been going around like this for years. And then I'll look around my house and I'll just start scrubbing walls impulsively. I'm like, my doors are filthy. But to me, it's like this nice, smooth looking surface.
Everyone's got a soft blur to it. That
yeah.
makes it look nice.
Yeah. You can't see the crumbs on the floor. Nothing. So
So if the inspector does wear glasses, they need to be wearing them while inspecting.
yes,
That's what
there
you're
we
saying.
go. Okay, yes, there. Yeah.
You also, though, you want somebody who's meticulous.
Okay.
I think where, job inspections, it's not a good enough. We're not about good enough. We're about doing it right. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing well.
And that's a lesson you want to teach your kids.
Absolutely, that's what you want. You want your kids to leave home thinking, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do it correctly.
Well, think about the best teachers or tutors or mentors that your kids have had. We had a woman, Susan, who taught our kids how to sew. Mm-hmm. And she was very meticulous. Trixie, you took sewing from her. Was she meticulous?
I just remember her like being very kind. I don't remember her being
How did she feel about Tia?
Oh.
She would make Tia undo her work and redo it.
Oh, because Tia had a tendency to cut corners.
Yeah, that was just because she's good in emergency situations, but Susan was like, no, you got to do this right. We want this to look good.
Not just do it right, but this is a different technique that Tia just wasn't used to. Tia wasn't used to sewing. That wasn't her forte. And she was learning a new skill. And Tia was always,
let's just hurry and get it done.
Get it done and move on.
Yeah.
Whereas with sewing, and as we're saying, as we're teaching our kids to do to do their jobs, we expect the job inspector to be a little more meticulous and a little more thorough and do it right and do it the way that
measure twice.
Yes, measure twice, cut once. Yeah, that whole idea.
So Susan, let me tell you about her. She would wear dresses to church, like business dresses, nice tailored dresses, and they looked store-bought. They fit her perfectly. They were smooth. They were well made. I have never seen somebody sew their own clothes and they looked that good. But the secret to it was she knew how to do it. She knew how to do sewing right, and she was meticulous.
But that goes back.
That's the type of person you want cutting your hair. That's the type of person you want doing your heart operation.
Or your taxes.
Or
building your home.
Yeah, there's
fixing your car. Oh, you know what? Good enough. Well, there's only 3 tires. Yeah, it'll still work. Could you put the 4th one on, please? Fine. Here you go. Can you put all the bolts on, please?
Yes.
Where you don't want somebody who does. You don't want stuff that's good enough. That is not what we want to teach our kids, and that is certainly not what you want in the professional world. So why not teach them when they're young? Yeah. Teach them to do the job, do it right. Be meticulous.
It right.
I hate the word anal, but you want somebody who's slightly anal.
No, my dad unfortunately had to work a lot. He worked 80-hour weeks on a regular basis, so he wasn't home a lot. But when he was home to do inspections, I remember it, and he was very meticulous. And one of my earliest memories,
getting the white glove out,
was the bathroom. He's like, see this mold and the thing, and he had me with a butter knife, making sure all the tiles were perfectly clean. The only time I got mad at him though was at one point I was older and he had me cleaning the bathroom and he came to inspect and he's like, the toilet brush isn't getting down in there all the way. You're going to have to take the water out of the toilet and just reach in there and scrub down there. And I'm like, no, Dad, I'm not doing that.
Oh, yuck.
But he was very meticulous, and he was a very good doctor. If you wanted to go to a doctor,
that's what you want.
That's the doctor you wanted to go to.
Very thorough,
Dr.
very meticulous.
Jones.
Yep, knew what he was talking about.
He was so thorough and so meticulous, and so that's... Anyway, he's the person that you want as your job inspector.
So...
Unless you're the person cleaning the toilet.
And then and we already mentioned you're preferably an adult. That these attributes tend to, but aren't always, but tend to be more prevalent in an adult.
But also with adults, a lot of times the siblings, they don't respect other siblings to be the job inspector.
Excellent point.
That's something that I noticed.
And so they're like, I don't care.
Yeah, you're a peer. You're not my parent.
Yeah.
So.
And we're going to talk about that.
Without using names, I want you to tell us what happened when you first started being the inspector, because you were like, we had talked about what job to give you, And you were adamant of, hey, I would love to do inspections. I could do a good job. And we said, that hasn't worked out in the past.
We tried it before, yeah.
Yeah, the other kids are mean to the kid who's the inspector. And they try to manipulate them. And sometimes they'll bully the kid who's inspector. Like, okay, I'm not going to be nice to you. You didn't pass off my job.
So can you think back, Trixie? We just restarted a couple months ago now, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember, like a couple months ago when we restarted doing this? What do you remember?
Was there any pushback
when we gave you the job of inspector?
Yeah.
And have you ever had? You've never had it before, have you?
I think I've done it like as a substitute. Like,
Okay, but you never actually had that as your assigned job. So
no, I don't think so.
So without using names, tell us like the sort of things that kids tried.
Well, they'd whine. That's one thing, and that would get annoying. I'm like, nope, this is what the inspection sheet says. You have to follow these things. They're like, well, Dad didn't have me do that, and I'm like, okay, well, it wasn't on there when Dad was inspector. Now it's on there, and they would be very rude to me, and they would like roll their eyes or something, and it was just frustrating. I was like, no, that's not how you can't treat me like that. Mm-hmm. And so then I'd have to go get Mom or Dad and say, hey, they're treating me like this. Will you please have them not do that?
Right.
And so we finally had to work out, hey, if you treat the job inspector like that, you'll have to pay them.
Yep.
So
basically you had to have the backing of me and Mom.
I had a.
Yeah.
But once we established that, what other things did they try? Do you remember, or was that it? Was that the main thing? Is they're like, I'm not going to listen to you.
We had to kind of nip it in the bud, though.
Yeah.
And Dad and I had to come down pretty hard. You do not give our inspector any talk back and trash. Or you're gonna get a fee. You're gonna be in trouble.
Or you're gonna have to pay her. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
You'll be the one paying the inspector, and you'll still have to do your job.
Did you have something else
well,
what you were thinking of? Because I don't remember anything
No.
else.
I just remember, and it was especially harder with the kids closer to your age.
Yes.
Also, the closer the other kids are to your age, the more they think of you as a peer, and you shouldn't be the boss of me. You know how
You're not the boss of me.
when
I'm
kids,
the boss of you.
Yeah, when kids are in a family and they're right next to each other in age, for some reason there's a tendency
sibling
of
rivalry.
I'm in charge of you. You're a year younger than I am. And it's whereas they'll be really nice to the kid that's like 2 years, 2 kids down or 3 kids down, but the one right under them.
Yep.
Ooh.
There's
this. Ooh.
Sibling rivalry. Yep.
You're not the boss of me. So anyway, so you gotta, if you do pick one of your children to be the inspector, they have to have all the qualities of an inspector, and you have to be prepared to nip any bullying of the inspector.
Or manipulation.
Yeah,
I was thinking you could easily get blackmailed. Oh, well, if you don't let this job pass, I'll tell Mom about what you did, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Good thing I don't have that problem.
Well, that's just it. That's part of the reason why you're an effective inspector is because you don't have any...
you can't be blackmailed.
Yeah.
And
you're honest,
I don't
and
get
you're straightforward,
manipulated, so.
And you're not manipulated. So,
yeah.
Oh, I hate it when people try to manipulate me.
Yeah, so
I don't play that game.
If you are going to use a job inspector, it has to be somebody like Trixie. But the other thing you have to be careful about if you choose a child to be the job inspector is to make sure the job inspector is not a bully. Think about it. Like, I remember in first grade when our teacher would leave the classroom because she'd have to go to the office or something like that, and she'd pick someone to be in charge. Mm-hmm. And that person in charge, if anybody misbehaved, they were supposed to write their names on the board. And I remember this one girl in first grade who was jealous of me, didn't like me. She got put in charge, and so she went and wrote my name on the board.
What did you do?
I cried. I was really mad.
So you were crying and then she wrote your name on the board?
No, I cried after she wrote my name on the board.
Why'd she write your name on the board?
Because she didn't like me.
But what did you do to get your name on the board?
Nothing. She didn't like me.
That's it?
Everyone was talking, and she only wrote down the names of the people she didn't like.
Okay.
So
I could see where a job inspector would make somebody else's life
So
miserable.
normally
because they don't
parents
like them, sure.
don't do that. They love all their
no.
kids. But just so you know, the bullying could go both ways. So you have to pick an inspector that you know doesn't have that.
That applies to parents too. Like if there's a kid that's giving you grief and they're just a difficult child and you're having maybe you're butting heads with them, you also have to divest yourself from that situation. Just focus on the task at hand of, I'm just doing job inspections. My feelings towards you don't matter at this point.
Let's look at the list.
Let's just make sure you did your job.
Take
and I'll
the
reward
emotion
you.
out of it and look at the list and stay with that list.
So I kind of want, though, I think this is cool having Trixie here, where I want to hear what your process is, Trixie.
Well, first off, we should tell why we have her sitting here in this hot recording room. So,
Yes, that would be nice.
the reason we have Trixie in this recording room is
because
because
she's our inspector.
she is our inspector, but she is a fantastic inspector. The kids have been doing their jobs, and our house has never looked better. And
Would you agree, Trixie?
I don't know.
no,
looks good.
our house and yard have never looked better.
Disclaimer, Hannah is not wearing her glasses.
Okay. Stop.
That's just kidding. No, the house does. It's looking better and better.
It's consistently looks nice. And she's working with kids from the ages 2 to 15.
Lumpy's 4.
Oh, gosh. He's 4 now?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
And Tank
Well,
doesn't have a
Tank
job
is
yet.
kind of working with
He
Tank.
kind of, Tank's kind of helping out, too. It's time for him to actually have a job now.
But 2 to 15.
Yeah. 4 to
Or
15.
4 to 15. Whatever.
Yeah. He's potty training right now. As soon as he's done potty training, he's going to get a job.
Yep.
Anyway, so she's working with kids all in between those ages. And so this is not, they're doing dishes, they're doing mopping, they're doing sweeping, vacuuming, laundry,
Mowing, edging.
and she inspects all of it. And it's a huge job, and it's a difficult job. I know because I've tried doing it before.
It's a 5,000 square foot house on a 1 acre property. Yeah, there's a lot of, and it's all got to be clean. The whole backyard's got to be clean. The back porch has to be clean. All the bathrooms, the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, it's all got to get cleaned because it gets messy. So every day, these are everyday inspections that Trixie does.
Okay, so Trixie, what we want to know your process so that we have this documented, not just for our listeners, but for future children who say they want to be the job inspector.
Yeah.
And if I ever decide to be job inspector again.
What is it you do? So can you just kind of walk us through
what a normal inspection day is?
I wake up in the morning and I press the job timer. No, what do you do? Do you start the job timer? Do you announce that you're going to be doing it? Do you psych yourself up in your room and do push-ups? Like how do you do what you do? What is your process? I'm very curious.
If you were training another job inspector, which you will be a year from now when you leave home, if you were training another job inspector, what would you tell them to do, and how would you explain it to them? Explain it to this microphone right here.
Okay. Well, I set the timer and I announce, everybody, it's job time, and I yell into the house and outside, but currently what we've been doing is we've just been doing it right after the meal, so everybody's already in the house, so I just say, okay, job timer starting, everybody runs off to go to their jobs, and then I have 20 to 30 minutes to do whatever I want. Then once the timer beeps, then I start checking jobs. Even if the kids finish beforehand and come to me and say, hey, Trixie, I'm done, I don't check their jobs. That's just annoying because I don't like having to check their jobs like multiple times. So once the job timer beeps, wherever I am in the house, that's typically where I start inspections. So wherever that's closest. So typically I'm upstairs. And so I start with the upstairs bathroom. I'm like, okay, Royal, let's check your job. Anyway, so I check his job, and then I just kind of wander through the house, like in the direction that it flows, I guess. And then I'm like, okay. And as I go through inspections, I'm like, okay, Royal, oh, the mirror, that looks beautiful. Good job. You tell them everything they did well, and then you also tell them the things that they also need to do. So, okay, wow, the mirror looks great. The toilet, you wiped it this time, and it underneath. Oh, but I see all along the edges you didn't sweep. Okay, so you need to sweep. And then After that, then I go to like the next one, and I do all the kids. And
so
then
the kids have to be there present in their job area while you're doing the inspection.
Absolutely.
And do you have like the app out or a piece of paper or anything out, or you just?
I did for the first like I don't know, almost like a month. I
Okay.
did that. Then you kind of know it.
Now you know the job well enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't have to keep looking at the app or whatever you're using. Anyway, but then after.
So you
So
go
you've-
through all the job zones.
And you've inspected everybody.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, once the job timer goes off, their job is supposed to be done. I should be able to go in there and there should be nothing for me to say, oh, you still need to do this. So it's actually me giving them a second chance when I come back around. They should have been done the first time. I'm actually giving you more time to get your job done. So they basically have about like maybe 5 minutes or so for me to go through everybody else's job, and then I go back to Royal, start wherever I started in the first place, and I'm like, okay, this is it, and then I announce, okay guys, second job inspections are starting, and then I start with Royal, and I'm like, okay, I look at all the things I told him to fix in the first place. Mm-hmm. Say like somebody dumped a shirt in his job while I was away. I'm not going to look at that shirt and say, oh, sorry, Royal, there's a shirt in there now.
So you're just going to inspect the things that weren't done the first time.
Yeah,
Got
the
it.
things that I told him that he had to do in order to pass.
Got it.
Okay? And then if he doesn't pass, and the second time I'm like, Royal, I know you worked really hard. You were so close, but you did not pass. Next time you need to be faster. I'm sorry, you got an X. I can either pay you to be the job substitute, or I can pay somebody else. Would you like to finish your job? You're still going to get an X, but would you like to finish your job? You did most of your job. You're probably going to be able to finish in like 2 minutes. Would you like to finish your job? You'll still get an X though. Mm-hmm. I make sure they understand that.
That means they won't get their bonus
For the week.
So,
So-
but they'll still get paid for the job, but
Yeah.
they just won't.
They lost their bonus.
Yeah, so-
it won't be as much. They'll get paid the substitution fee and the. But they won't get paid the weekly bonus, which
Got
is big.
But I give them the option of them finishing their job. Sometimes they actually don't want to finish their job because they're like, it's too much work. Like, sometimes, like, they, like, started late or they're, like, playing or something when the job timer started. And so they only did, like, maybe half their job. And they're like, I don't want to finish the other half. Yeah, go ahead and pay someone else.
Okay.
And so somebody else will do it. And that's fine. But I always give them a choice. And then after you're done, and that's basically all the inspections.
Okay. And did
Is
you
there
give them
anything else?
multiple? You just give them the initial inspection and the job timer beeps,
Yeah.
and then one more after that, and that's it.
So
Yeah,
you
that's
do
it.
2 rounds.
I'm not willing to do 3 rounds because if you couldn't finish it within the 5 minutes that I had going around checking everybody else's job, then I'm not going to give you extra time after that. Sometimes those 5 minutes are like 10 minutes depending on how far away people's jobs are. But you were supposed to be done the first time I came.
Right.
So I'm giving you, I don't know, what would you call that? A bonus?
Second chance.
A second chance.
A little leeway.
Yeah, so
Now
you should be grateful for me giving you a second chance. And if they give me attitude or like, hey, I'm so close. You said that I had to do this, and this. I'm like, okay, well, did you finish doing that? And they're like, well, I only had that one thing left. I'm like, I'm sorry. You didn't finish it by the time I came back the second time. You get an X.
Yeah, it should have been done the first time I came, and it wasn't even done the second time.
Why should I?
So why? I've a question for you, Trixie. Why do you give them 2 chances? Why not just, hey, job time for inspections. Where you're not, here I come. Why don't you do that? Why do you give them a second chance? I'm just curious.
I never really thought of that. Well, a lot of times, sometimes you just forget. They forget, oh, right, that's on there. And they just need like a little reminder. Or they remembered, they just forgot to do it. Or it's not good enough. Like, it's not like, okay, you wiped it, but you forgot to dry it. You kind of need to dry it.
Okay.
So things like that where it's not finished all the way, I'm like, okay, this looks really good. You just need to finish it all the way. And so I'm like, okay, and plus it gives them more time because sometimes they're like, oh, but I'm so close. And so I'm like, it's giving them a little bit of extra time as well. But if they complain about that afterwards, that kind of makes me mad. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, I'm giving you extra time and you're still complaining the second time around. I'm sorry. you get an X.
That's definitely an X. So you had mentioned once that if a kid slacks off and you do the first round and they're not even close to, you just tell them, no, it's an X.
Oh, yeah. Like, I don't want to name names, but one little guy, I caught him playing around, like, and playing tag with someone else. And I was like, hey, is your job done? And he's like, no. And I was like, okay, well, when the job timer beeps, your job has to be done. And then when I come and inspected him, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this isn't even close. Like, you're not even, maybe you're only halfway done. I'm like, I'm not even going to bother coming back and inspecting again because I know you cannot finish within 5 minutes.
Okay.
So why would I even bother wasting my time and going back and inspecting again? So I'm like, sorry, you got an X.
So next question then. When you're choosing, say the kid decides not to be their own substitute. They didn't do their job, they get an X, and they're like, I don't care. I'm just going to go off and do my thing, go ahead and hire a substitute. What do you do? How do you, I guess, who
gets to be the substitute?
Who do you choose? And how do you choose that?
Well,
or how you like to do it. Tell us how you like to do it.
Well, before, I used to like doing it based on who is the first person done with their job. Mm-hmm. But I haven't been doing that because I haven't been checking jobs until at the timer beeps.
Got it.
So lately what I've been doing is I've just been choosing, actually I usually choose a job. I don't know, I usually say, who wants a job? I just usually yell it out, and then whoever says, oh, me first, then I usually do, like, but that's not, like, a really good way to do it. I like doing it when, like, it was a competition to see who could get their job done first, and then whoever got their job done first, then they would get to have dibs on getting to do which of the substitutes. Okay. That was my favorite way of doing it.
And why was it your favorite way?
Because we would always race. And the house would get clean in like 10 minutes. It wouldn't be like, it would still it would get done really well, but really quickly. I don't know. I thought that was fun. It was like a competition.
I'm the first one done. Mom, and I'm the first one done.
I have dibs on.
Yeah.
Being a substitute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How often do you have to hire substitutes? Is that like a daily thing? Is that a weekly thing? Does it change?
With a certain child, it's been lately.
Yeah, for
a certain no need to name names.
Yeah, for a certain child, yes. But I think he just needs jelly beans.
Okay.
He's still in between the toddler.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
But other than that, for the most part, you don't have to hire substitutes, right? Or is that like a weekly thing?
I have had to hire substitutes for, I think, almost every single child. But it's not. Actually, what typically happens is when you first start being inspector is like they'll think they can get away with stuff, and then you have to be very firm when you first start. You can't let anything slide. You have to be like, the timer beeped. No, I'm sorry. You do not get to do your job anymore. You got an X, and that teaches them like, oh, I have to go faster, and oh, she won't let me slide. She won't let that pass.
Right.
And then it doesn't happen again. It typically
so they
does not
push
happen
that
again.
boundary and maybe try to give you a hard time, or they see what they can get away with.
But as long as you're
to see where the boundary's at,
and you're just firm,
but
no
that
problems.
Yeah, but then after that, it doesn't happen again. Like,
so you're making your job easier.
Okay,
guys.
Do you guys hear what she's just saying? Basically, expect it when you first start doing inspections. Expect them to do a sloppy job and to maybe mope or manipulate you. All that they're doing is they're trying to define where the boundaries are and what they're going to be able to get away with. And once you set up the boundary of, nope, I expect it done at this time, I expect it to be done right, and I expect it to be here, they rise up to the, how do you say?
They rise to the challenge?
They rise to the challenge. There we go.
They meet the expectations.
They meet the expectations after that. And so I noticed this and I appreciate this because I've done the opposite where I'm like, oh, I'll give him a third chance and I'll give him a fourth chance. And what happens if you do that?
You're actually training them to manipulate the system and to not work.
And to
and you think you're being kind, but you're actually not. You're being the opposite of kind. You're actually giving them tools to manipulate. And that's not what you want for your children. It's not.
Yeah. So what she's saying, you need to expect that and go, no, it's especially when you're beginning, it's very important to stick to the timer and stick to the rules of the game that you set up ahead of time.
Then you won't have
show
problems
them,
in the future.
I mean business. And then everybody goes, okay, finally, and goes, okay.
That's all fine and dandy, and I appreciate that. But what about that first week when you're first learning a new job? Are you still militant and unflinching and unbending?
The first week people are learning their jobs.
Yeah, the first week people are learning their jobs, and so what I do is every single day I expect the job to look better. At the end of the week, it should be exactly how it will look the rest of the year.
Okay.
So every day I'll be like, I'll check it and I'll be like, I'll give them probably usually like 10 things they need to do. Typically every day I give them like 1 or 2 things they have to do before I go around for a second inspection. But at the beginning I'm like, there's so many things. I give them like 10 or so things and I'm like, that's a lot of things to do before I come back around. And I'm like, so then I give them 10 of those things, but then I take like 2 of them. I'm like, okay, but I expect those 2 things, those 2 big things, like that entire wall, to be cleaned by tomorrow.
So tomorrow the expectation will be higher than today.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
So I'll take the hardest things from that job and I'll say, those are due tomorrow. So they can work on that after job inspections, or they can do it during job time the next day. But I've already told them what I expect for the for the next day. Mm-hmm. So they're not surprised. They're like, but you didn't tell me to do that yesterday. I'm like, actually, I did.
But they should already know anyway because you've gone over the checklist. Mm-hmm. They should know what's expected, but because they're starting a new job.
Well, typically the jobs are like, I don't know, messy when you first start. Like,
when you're first starting up the Money Pants, it's true. The bathroom is not going to be, they're not going to walk into a pristine bathroom. It was messy
because you weren't the inspector before.
Yeah, but that's why I like kind of flinched. I was like, well, maybe it wasn't supposed to be that way. But
no, for families who are starting Money Pants for the first time, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where you go to, okay, your job's the bathroom, and you go to the bathroom and it's this bomb went off. You're like, wait, it's supposed to be sparkly clean, and it looks like it hasn't been cleaned in a year.
Gas station bathroom.
Yeah, gas station bathroom where so it's only fair that the first day, okay, hey, you know what? Great. There's no more grime on the toilet. That's a huge improvement. Yeah. Tomorrow though, I expect there to be no more grime around the toilet. Mm-hmm. And then the next day I expect the shower to be clean. And then
I expect the baseboards to all be wiped or something like that. Do you
give them more time during that first week?
No. So time stays the same.
And why?
Why?
Yeah, why do you keep
We've already talked about that.
Well, tell us again.
Oh, because it teaches them that the time limit is going to be the same no matter what. You're not going to be moving it around just to
accommodate them. So it teaches them, I gotta bust a move.
Yeah.
I don't have time to goof around. Mm-hmm. Perfect. I love that. Woo.
Okay, so just so you know, Trixie will probably be running a
Fortune 500 company.
Fortune 500 company. She's got this down. Yeah, she's our efficiency expert. We many times go to Trixie and ask her, hey, how's this working out? And give us your feedback. And she gives us some of the best feedback and says, hey, well, I liked it this way better and this is why. And she's able to articulate that and help us figure out which systems work the best.
And she is available for hire. She charges $550 an hour.
You can hire her. She will help you get Money Pants started and save up for college. And
just kidding. But thank you, Trixie, for joining us today. Those are kind of all of our thoughts about the job inspector. Do you have any final thoughts, words of wisdom, pearls of knowledge that you want to share? Anything that we talked about, Trixie? If not, that's okay.
There was one thing that, I think I forgot to mention, but a lot of times if you have, a big family, you might forget what you told them to do that day. After the first inspection, you tell them to do stuff. You might have forgotten, so instead what I do when I come back for the second round, I'm like, oh, show me what you did. And so then they show me, oh, well, I cleaned the toilet like you told me, and I cleaned the grime out of the tiles. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, okay, good. Anything else? They're like, oh, and I did this. And they kind of just do it for me. They kind of do the inspections for me.
Tricks of the trade.
But that's, don't tell your kids you do that.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. We should have said, hey, if your kids are listening, have them plug their ears.
Spoiler alert. Dang it.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. And that's it. Those are all of our thoughts about the job inspector and job inspections and how to run it efficiently. And Trixie, thank you for being here. That was awesome.
Is job inspector one of the required things when you're doing setup?
There are two jobs you cannot change. One is payday, whoever conducts payday, and the other is job inspector. You can't change them, you can't delete them, you can't get rid of them.
Yeah,
these are,
you can
these
change
are
all the other jobs. You can decide how
These are essential.
what your daily jobs are, what your weekly jobs are, but they will always include payday and job inspections because it will not work without those two.
Mm-hmm. Phew. So, if you like what you hear in this podcast, please tell your friends. They may be looking for a solution like Money Pants. And if you have a suggestion for a future podcast, go to our website under support and click contact us. Send us an email and we'll get right on it. And that's it. That's it for today. Enjoy some Falcon Jasper jumpin' jams. We'll see you next time.